All right, let me make sure here we got some things going on. Um, yep. So I know that there might not be a whole lot of people wanting to watch a guy talk about things at this late of night. I get it, but this is a good time to do the announcement. Welcome to my channel. My name is Bruce Lombardo. This is my YouTube location. I also am streaming directly to StreamYard, through StreamYard to Rumble, and I do have some good news. Good news today. Hello, Lady. I'm going to be kicking off something for YouTube side. It's going to be channel memberships. I already have those available on Rumble. Nobody's taking advantage of them either way, but I'm putting them out there for both sides now. And just to show benefits and such, one thing I want to do is have like a member stream on Sundays to where people that are involved with that, they're going to have a chance. Hey, Crafting Gamer. Hey, Hungar. We're going to have a chance to have a palaver on Sunday and talk about things that are important to my members. That seems pretty cool. Also, every third or every other Saturday right now is going to be a beta test day. So next Saturday we'll be doing a beta test, and Crafting Gamer, Lady, Six Nation 31 Kings. They're going to be the first three. Others, if they want to join, let me know. We'll be doing all of that. And would like to have at least 4 people for a party, preferably 5. But about a month ago, I got a notification. Hey, hello, Spec. I got a notification in my email from these guys, and they wanted to know what I was talking about. They wanted to know what I thought of their product. And I'm like, I've got 3 videos on my channel. You can go ahead. Here's links. And they're like, oh, would you mind doing a new video in portrait mode? Sure. So, anyway, they sent me this. And in my view, I did choose the things that I received, but I just have to get this placed out here. And I know you're like, Bruce, you talk about Duke Cannon all the time. What's the big deal? Well, this is, yeah, it's in my possession right now, but this is stuff that's going to be given away. Yeah, lady, next week we start it. Start going through a rigorous testing, and you guys will be helping build what I feel is going to be my future at a gaming table. X, as we taught in the best of days, says Six Nations. Yes, it is. This is amazing soap, soy-based Jeremy. This is the best soap you'll ever use. I'm a plumber. I know soap, okay? Leaf and leather. Keep in mind, I did give 2 bars of soap away, which are not in the stack of 13 soaps. So I have 11 of these soaps here. But periodically, and I'm probably thinking like every 4 to every 6 weeks, we're going to be giving a giveaway. And I'll be dropping one of these out in the mail and get it to one of my members, because I think this is the best soap out there. And I know that sounds pretty lame, but I think this is the way that after you've done horrible work, if you've been on a roof, if you've been in a sewage sanitation sort of thing, if you have had stuff stick to you and your perspiration's not letting go of it politely, it's getting in your body hair, you need something good. So these guys gave away a bunch of their stuff to me. I'm going to throw that back at my friends And I call you guys my friends because I have the same 5 to 10 people on these live streams, and I really appreciate that. I don't want to get super big. Legion of Myth big is about as big as I'll ever want to get. Whoa, Crafting Gamer, you don't have to do that, but thank you. Yeah, I have a face. I have a face, Mages and Musings. But this is Flea, no, I'm not doing a bathtub stream. No. But I figure that this is a way that I can help give back to the guys that, like, you listen to me talk, you listen to me rant. Let me help you clean up a little bit. And this will help you off camera, off the web. This is a really good way for you to just get back and get to yourself. I know that sounds lame. Call it lame. I'm not worried about it. Those soaps are the soaps I use. Okay. As a matter of fact, the first one we'll be giving away is November 15th. We're giving away Midnight Swim to one lucky member. And we'll have that. So base Jeremy, I'm not a fucking cop. I did do the law enforcement schooling, but still. Anyway, I figured you guys should know. And I wanted to be able to share that good information with you because I could turn this into a political news talk stream. Janet and I were supposed to do a show tonight. And God bless her, but she's got a problem with her foot. So she went to the doctor, and the cure has put her away to Mrs. Night Land, and she's out. So that was resolved before I even got home. Lady says you should be doing a Saturday the 14th movie tomorrow. I should. Maybe. I'm doing a game stream tomorrow. So anyway, so I thought that we would have that discussion. I wanted you guys to be aware of what's going on. I don't want to make a super long video. We've got other things we can do. If you guys want me to shut this down and I'll turn this into a chill stream and I will open it up, I'll throw the gates open, we could do that. And I'd be more than happy to have people in here just talking, because there was a really good stream with over at Legion of Myth for a little bit. I would listen until I was like, I have to get this work off me. So, yeah. Yes, she is got foot pain, plantar fasciitis, which is policeman's heel. It's kind of a pain you get whenever your foot's wanting to go flat. I don't know the technical term by it. Never have I ever said I'm a doctor. But she is going through a lot of foot pain, and so she's like, I got to go get a shot. And then she got the shot, and it ruined her day. And I'm very sorry to hear that. Lady's like, I'd hop in, but I'm already naked in bed. Yeah, okay. And you're gonna listen to us on the road. That's cool. You got to go visit your dad. Take care of your parents. Seriously. I got to figure out a way to get my dad and mom to get on Gilded or Discord so we can have our face-to-face streams and chat with each other, because I'd rather do that from this desk than from my phone. I hate phones. I've always been a pro computer internet person. The web on the phone, let me just have streaming music. I'll be happy. But Six Nation says, I've had it many times. I've got flat feet and walked miles and miles regardless. Yeah, I think my feet were trying to go flat because 2 weeks ago I had that Monday night hell, and I walked from my job up and I got onto the access road, about 3 miles of I-10 at that point. And when I got to the Petro, there's like this Petro there, and right across the street from it is Jalisco. No, it's not Jalisco. It's a Rodero. Excuse me. I need to wet the whistle. Okay. So I went over there, and I had 2 dogs with me that I picked up at an apartment complex because they're like, oh, look, a person. I'm like, oh my God, they're dogs. And so I gave them the water that was in my thermos, and actually that was coffee, and my cup. And I realized I have wild dog spittle now. Great. And I drank. Dog's mouth are supposedly cleaner than your mouth. So I took care of that. The poor dogs, I felt sorry for them. Now I've cured their thirst, and I kept walking up I-10 to where my wife works at. I walked like 5 or 6 miles that night. It was an adventure. And it was really an adventure towards the last part, as I'm trying not to get run over on the access road. And once I got to her place, I let her know, like, I'm locked out of my vehicle. It's safe. And I locked up the business. So we're good. So she drove me to work the next day. And ever since then, my feet have been really painful. The first half hour, I got to stretch. This is PBR. Pabst Blue Ribbon beer is not a quote unquote a craft beer by any means, but it is a good beer which takes the edge off of the day. And it is made right here in San Antonio. They moved it back from Minneapolis, St. Paul area, I think, or Milwaukee. One of those two had it, and then they dropped it back here. They brought it to San Antonio. And I don't understand why nobody talks about PBR. I understand that it's a entry level beer, or it's a consumable mass quantities beer. It's same tier beer as Budweiser or Miller Lite or some such as that. Hey David, how you doing? Um, I feel that PBR is probably one of the higher quality cheap beers that's out there, and it's actually mostly nationwide. So for those of you that are imbibing, or for those of you that had a good day, prost to you. And I was going to talk about current events, but I don't need to. You already know how I feel. You guys already know how I feel about what's going on right now overseas, and I'm not in favor. So, Mage's Musing says, I'm 2 ciders in, an undetermined amount of whiskey myself. Feeling good here. No beer, though. Ciders are a mixed bag for me. There is a honey cider out of Austin East Ciders, and it is a pleasant drink. So I prefer that out of all the ciders I've had. I'm not a cider guy. I don't do shandies either. Shandies are just yeah. Well, Crafting Gamer says I can be on. Hold on. Let me open the doors. Now, if anybody starts posting prawn, I'm gonna have to boot you out. Don't do that. Thank you. I'm gonna place these in the box. Calvin on, he's like, I'm out of glue. Damn. I'm sorry, dude. So I don't know what happened with YouTube. What do I have against shrimp? Really, not a whole lot against shrimp. What do you mean against shrimp? If you can extrapolate, David Guile, I'm not catching your jib here. Oh, you've been using too much glue. Okay. No. Prawn is nothing. I like prawn. Prawn is shrimp. PRAWN. Hey, there's Crafting Gamer. Let me introduce this man. Coming live to you from the Pacific Northwest, the Fat Man's Corner.
Evening, everyone.
Sir, how are you?
Pretty good. Just finished printing a 36 pieces for 6 different orcs for Shadow and Sun.
Nice. I think tonight I'm going to finish up a few of my Little China, Big Trouble in Little China figures.
Oh, and speaking of orcs, see if I can get my camera. Oh, it's up. All right. I was recording earlier.
Oh, hold on, let me stand my head. Ooh, that's pretty.
Oh, come on, folks. Well, let's try a background. Maybe that'll make it focus.
Yeah, you gotta.
There we go.
That is very well done.
Thank you. There's a few.
You're really a good painter, dude.
Thank you. There's a few mistakes where he's got a little metallic on his skin, but I feel for an orc that's not out of place. So, let's see if we.
Come on in, Mage's Musings. We got room for 6 or 10.
Apparently, there's a bunch of orcs out there that like purple, so it's like that's perfect. I like purple. So he's mostly gold, copper, and I actually cheated and started this hide with some the hide. I should say the fur here.
Hello, Mage's Musings.
Hello.
I started off the fur with some speed paint, and then I dry brushed on some regular paint. Can't really see the. Oh, wait, here we go. Yeah.
David Guile
really
asks, is that a Beast Boss crafting gamer?
Yes, he is.
If we're showing off our crafting, I will demonstrate my paper mini. Notice the black and white line. That's about the extent of my talent.
See if I can.
That is great. David Guile's going to be uploading some photos onto various Discords. He's got 30 Termagants.
I have a color one. Raceland Majere.
Ooh.
My favorite part of this model is this piece right here. That dinosaur head. I instantly fell in love with that. I knew when I got this it had to be bone color to make it look like he made it out of some sort of dinosaur or something.
Yeah. Calvinani is claiming that you read Order of the Stick, which, of course, as a man of culture, a man of culture, you would.
I contributed to the Kickstarter years ago, but he's kind of screwed a bunch of people, unfortunately.
Really?
He hasn't completed it, and there are people who haven't gotten what they paid for. I got everything I wanted, so I mean, I have no gripes, but I can see why people are really stressed and frustrated about it. It's been 10 years, 11 years now, I think.
Sheesh. I know when I try to do my book, I want to see about doing it by Kickstarter, but I intend to get some help from somebody who knows what they're doing.
Just do your best, and like between the communities of like Mages, Bear, Legion of Myth, I think there's enough people in there that kind of have they've waded through the trenches. They can help point you in the right direction or be helpful.
Well, I've never done anything by Kickstarter. I mean, I contributed, but I've never, created a product. The Jason Anarchy from Jason Anarchy Games offered to sort of guide me through if I ever did anything. He's done a few at this point, so I wouldn't be good advice. It'd be new to me too.
I would love to know more about the publishing aspect of it. Right now, I got to figure out how to open up and start doing a database so I can start writing the spells for my system. But that's going to be the hill climb right there. I don't know if you guys have ever written a system that mimics a particular popular brand of fantasy gaming, but the spells, I think a lot of game designers die at the spells.
I know making spells and Hardium were not easy for my book. That's part of the reason why the starting list was so short.
David Guile, I was taught back in high school that you use a database for that sort of thing to get your fields straight and all that. I'll actually talk to David about this at a later point. David, we're going to talk here in the future. That way, I'm pretty certain David's like, I just wrote a book. You have that book.
Well, something Cal Vanoni says here is like there are so many games now, and that's absolutely true. we are not wanting for options if we want to
No.
play something.
My only real problem is that like I don't have infinite money, so I could try the games already out there. But I would love, like, if there was a game in existence that already has everything I want with the game I want to run. Like I like speed factors and casting times, and I despise the word full round action. I'm not into that, and you'll see it starting next Saturday. I'll be running a beta test. I'll be doing 3 sessions over the course of like a month and a half of a first level beta test, where these guys are not even like full class members. They're just like kids. This guy could be skilled. He might turn into a thief later. We don't know. And this guy's pretty good with. He's big and beefy. He might be a fighter. And this kid got the natural ability to be a wizard. And this one could be a cleric, but they're not. They haven't gone through training yet. And so I have the apprenticeship classes I'm doing first. And then once they get their formal training, which could be at any time, once they make the money or once they do the deed to make somebody be like, okay, fine, I'll give you your mentorship. You're going to be with me for 6 weeks at first. And after that, whenever you level up for a while, we're going to be talking and I'll be helping you get through the process. But after you've surpassed me, it's going to be up to you and on your own. And the one thing a lot of games nowadays, and that because of 5th level or 5th edition games, they've made it to where you can level up twice in one day. And you do one adventure, I think for like the next week, you'd probably be at home limping and bandaging up your wounds and
Are you kidding? It's take 2 aspirins and get a good night's rest and you're full hit points.
So anyway, so you see the problem I have with modern day gaming.
Well, you don't like video game at the tabletop?
No. A lot of people they criticize me for wanting to use miniatures.
No, I love using minis. I like the tactical aspect. I mean, theater of the mind is fun, but there sometimes you want the minis there. You want the exact positioning for the tactical options, simply because certain classes, regardless of the system, whether it's 5th, 1st, 2nd, certain classes thrive when you can see the actual layout. You can see the distances. Thieves, notably. But definitely fighters as well, and even the wizard. You want to know, okay, do the enemies have a direct line to the wizard, or do they have to go around? Do they have to go through the meat shields? All that sort of thing. When you can see it on the grid and on the board, it makes that so much more easier to play out. I hate theater of the mind combat, especially when it's complex. So there's a lot of moving parts. I get why people don't necessarily like minis, because sometimes it can slow things down. How many 5th ed games have you played where the entire session is a combat, right? That's not ideal.
I do despise the way 3rd ed and Pathfinder do their round by round combat. It just, for me, there's a lot of like, and then you take aim, Mr. Archer, and you let go of 4 arrows precisely where the enemy doesn't want them, and he takes 100 points of damage, and it takes you 7 minutes to resolve the amount of damage and die rolling. I hate that.
It can be aggravating. I do run a 5th ed game, I try to streamline it. I try to keep it quick. I mean, I house rule the game, but I don't change combat in any way. I still run it by the book, but I still try to make it fast. And one thing I had, and this is a player thing, not necessarily a rule thing, but you got players who don't think about their action until their turn comes.
Wait, say that again?
Players don't think about their action until their turn comes. So, when they've got 5 minutes between their turns and they're sitting, they do nothing. They just phase out. Oh, it's your turn. Oh, it's my turn. Okay, what am I going to do? So what's this?
Almost always formulating some sort of plan while I'm waiting.
Theater of the mind due to speed. We have kids who love terrain and minis. Yeah. I mean, I think that the ideal game, personally, at least for me, is you get the mix. You get the theater of the mind with the grid. You don't have to grid out every part of the adventure. You can theater of the mind it. If the combat is small, theater of the mind it. But if there are enough moving parts that it warrants the minis, use the minis. Get those positioning.
Yeah,
I get that positioning, so I
I
can't
at
speak.
least like if you got into a fight with Thunder here and you were squaring off against him and he did not immediately obliterate you, you'd have a chance to resolve your action that you were planning since your last action. And depending on if it was faster or slower than his, you would have resolution when it would happen. Now, say if his action comes first, he's planning to do something that would possibly immobilize you or rob you of your current activity. Um, once once he starts getting advantage, it's just a point of trying to do some sort of counter or grabbing a hold of part of his body and making it to where you guys are now basically rolling your W100 and adding your bonuses, and you're praying to the goddesses of luck to kiss your die so you can get away and try this again at a later time. But I don't like rounds. I go by seconds and minutes. And so there's a clock that once your time hits, you resolve your action. And then I ask you, what are you going to do next? And you state what you're doing next. So I notate when that's going to happen. And then I call the next second, then the next second, then the next second until somebody else's action goes off. Whenever it's just two people fighting, I might throw the miniatures out there with like a couple pieces of scenery, maybe a table, maybe a bench, maybe a door, and that's it. That's all that needs to be shown. But if I've got a bunch of various moving parts, man, let me get the terrain drawn out here, and it's going to be. I bought reams of printing paper just so I could draw and lay down the papers as the fight goes on. And I know that sounds really lame, but my players built me a table and then they put a grid on it. I hate grids.
Oh,
I
I love
much rather
grids.
would have measuring tape and say like, okay, once you measure, action said, action done. That's your commitment. If you're measuring to get range on a spell, it's fired. And if your buddy is in the blast radius of it, TS. So if you're going to be playing with the templates for the AoEs, as soon as you figure out, as soon as you understand, like, I got to place this initially where it's not going to affect my buddy who's in the middle of this fight. As soon as that gets placed on the table, okay, figure out your damage. Let me get the reflex saves rolled. And my players are having a hard time adopting to my skirmish style game that I'd much rather run than Pathfinder round by round with grids and homogenized bullshit.
See, I like having the grid. I got a nice big battle mat. I got my my Crayola washables for the battle mat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also have the tape measure, and I'll say if people will like look at this, like, okay, can I have the tape measure? No, you make your choice. You got to eyeball it. And because not everybody on a grid is still going to be perfectly lined up. There's going to be weird angles and diagonals. So you still need the tape measure. The grid just sort of helps you.
Yeah.
Especially
the
if I have
grid
to
helps you get
draw quick.
visualization.
Yeah. So I like my battle mat, even though it's old and falling apart.
I'm a fan of actually putting out scenery instead. So I'm doing more and more like floor plans and drawing up like this is a cabin, this is an inn. Got a couple of throw mats that they do have a grid on them, but they're really well detailed and they have all the tables and chairs and everything laid out there for you to see as you're setting things up. So it looks like you're playing in somewhere that's not just a hastily drawn area. The Paizo maps are good if you want to run with a grid, but I don't. But their maps are still really well drawn out. They're very pretty. The only problem is they have a gloss.
Right, which limits what you can use.
Yeah.
Hastily drawn is my jam. Here, let's quick. I don't know if you can see this. There's my mess of a table. It's currently got a lot of stuff on it because I've been doing videos, but and I'm in the middle of a move too, so everything's boxed up. But
Yeah, how's your move doing? How's your personal sanity going with that?
sanity? What is sanity? I do not know the meaning of this word.
No,
The Demi Lich ate it already.
Yeah. Why, yes,
Have you
minion.
ever-
Hello.
I love that thing. I love that prop. Have you you've ran Ruins of Adventure, right, Sean?
Ruins of Adventure. Which one is that?
That was the basis for the original Pool of Radiance game.
Run it? No, I picked it up a while back, intending to run it, and just never got to it. I had to think of it. The title didn't jump out at me for a moment, but it was vaguely familiar. But yes, no, I haven't run it yet.
It's got the sword and board, blonde-haired fighter on the cover.
On the cover, yeah, I know which one you're talking about now.
The dragon is right behind him. Wrong color dragon, but still, it's fine. It's a dragon. It's point across.
I also picked up Curse of the Azure Bonds, but again, haven't run it yet.
I've not seen that module.
I think they based the module on the video game this time, whereas the other one, Ruins of Adventure, had a video game based on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wacky in that I don't buy a module and tell the players they're playing it. I will seed it into a campaign and let them get to it of their own volition. They they've avoided more modules than I've played, but they're in the driver's seat. So the exception sort of being Night Below, where I pushed them in that direction. They were beholden to it a guild, so they had to do a job, and that meant going into the Night Below scenario. But they still left of their own volition too. So
Night Below was a really good first and second book for me.
I keep hearing that people haven't liked the. Once you get onto the Underdark, it's like it just goes downhill. But the Heronshire scenario is just so well regarded.
Like you have the Durgar, you have the Illithids, but there's no Drow. And what somebody did was what?
There are Drow in there.
There's not like a event location for Drow though. And somebody wrote in an old dungeon magazine in 1996 or 97 a Night Below adventure that you could insert to have the Drow have like a base of operations or something. But I don't remember the Drow being a big factor of it.
I know they're a faction you can deal with. I mean, you're not dealing with a major Drow city, but they are there. They're one of the factions you can deal with. What's particularly fun about the next chapter of my Night Below campaign is Team Evil is dissolved, so now it's a bunch of good guys going in, so including a paladin. Everybody's a good alignment. So you think the paladin's going to allow them to make deals with the Drow or the Illithid? It should be fun to watch play out.
Oh, sorry if I'm quiet and seem a little out of it. I have a bad back and had to take some medication.
That's okay.
Sean, you're not Sean, I apologize. David, you're fine, man.
I don't take it very often, so it tends to knock me for a loop.
It's a chill stream, so everybody's just chilling.
Yeah.
I might have to go get some more alcohol.
Yeah. This is the module that I picked up about a year and a half ago. When I found it was in really good shape. And when I finally read this had been out for 30 years. And wow, the interior of this really gives you a lot of good notes as to where you can take your game and who the various NPCs are and people in the town that are depending on you, and then the various individuals and factions you deal with later. But this is a very good module. And the reason why I say that is that it's not completely statted out. They give you like, here's random tables, here's like the basic stats for first edition creatures. And if you know the system you're wanting to run with, you can port them to that and adjust them. But it is so nice and bare bones. It gives you a good story, and you can just stick in your encounters that you want if you don't want to use what they have there because your players are used to kobolds with the D4 hit points. This is like if I didn't live in a world with B2 or Isle of Dread, this would be my favorite module.
No reason you can't run it all. This is from men yelling at clouds to Bruce's super swanky chill stream. Who was yelling at the clouds?
Say again?
Six Nations is making a comment. From men.
Oh yeah.
That would be Legion of Myth. They were making fun, making some jokes, and someone mentioned old men yelling at the clouds, and Legion of Myth was like, "Oh, that might be a good name for this show." Hold on, let me write that down.
Right.
And he literally had written it down.
I was out at a friend's birthday, so I missed Legion's stream tonight. Hence why I have some alcohol in me.
Calvin on, he's like, you don't have to modify anything about Night Below, which if you want to run that as it is, it could be a lot of fun with people that don't know how it works or how the story's laid out.
Well, Night Below is open world enough that you can add, and it's even designed so that you can add in scenarios that aren't present in the modules, because you're meant to be there for a while. Even Heronshire is meant to take place over at least a year to 2 years. God knows how long it will take to do the Underdark part. I don't know how long the new team coming in is going to take just doing the Heronshire part. I mean, they'll have to get up to speed, but I've told them that the videos that I've done are public knowledge, so they don't have to pretend not to know anything. But we'll see how long it takes them to figure out where they have to go and what they have to do. But I've got other stuff cooking too in the campaign. So anybody's guess.
Now, it looks like, have you made yourself know, or do you know about Dungeons and Delvers, Sean?
Dungeons and Delvers?
Yeah.
Is this another channel, or are we talking another?
No, I'm talking about the RPG written by David Guile, Mr. David Guile, which is in our chat right now.
Okay, no, I do not.
It's a really sweet book that he has. That he put this out about maybe a year and a half ago, and it's thick. It has a lot of 4E and 5E style-ish mechanics in it, but it takes it back to Rule Cyclopedia as well. It's a 515-page book. So you have plenty in here. There's a lot. This is the first edition of it, and then he also has a die pool version of this game. It's really a good game. And he's talking about releasing a second edition, which kind of makes me sad on one hand because I'm thinking, but I haven't even played your first edition.
First edition, yeah.
And the first edition game is got some sweet stuff to it. I actually like the Warlock that's in here. It's a basic class. And instead of a halfling, he's got various types of kobolds, which that's kind of cool as well. But I didn't know if you were familiar with Mr. David Guile or his system.
I've seen him in your chat, but I didn't know he'd published anything.
No, he's
the book looked really pretty.
The cover's great. It took me about 4.5 chapters to go. I love the art. But
now, is it a retro clone or like what's the scoop behind it?
I don't really know if it would be considered a retro clone or if it's something that in a different universe would be like an extension from, say, like if you don't like this version of 4th edition, there's this version of 4th edition.
Got it.
Because he does the extra stuff at 5, 10, 15th level. And I show off most of the book. I think I have a playlist on my channel where I talk about it. I need to get back into that, wrap that up. I've got a few other playlists I need to wrap up too, but a few other books I started delving into, and then I just, squirrel, and went off to them and said, Dungeons and Delvers is a sweet game. It feels like a better version of 4th edition than what we got from Wizards of the Coast. And I know that sounds like either low praise or high praise, depending on how you feel about fourth edition. Fourth edition for me that would be an okay game if it wasn't titled Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I never got into fourth. I have no opinion on it. Like I picked it up when it came out. Like I picked up the book in the store and read through it and said, "This isn't D&D for me," and put it back, and that was it. That was the extensive experience of fourth edition for me. At the time fourth ed came out, I was still heavily into second ed. Like I was running second ed for almost 30 years. Well, at that point it had been 20 years, and it was a case of I don't need to upgrade. I didn't even like third edition. I don't want to crap on third edition because I know people love it, and
Sure.
it certainly wasn't for me. I just got frustrated by it, and so I had to walk away. I was in a game that a friend ran, so fourth edition has its adherents. I mean, and yeah, it's as you say, they gave it the Dungeons and Dragons name, but it's D&D in name only. There's from what I've seen of the mechanics and what people talk about, it's a tabletop video game combat simulator.
I don't mind TSR versions of D&D. In fact, if somebody's going to be like, I'm only going to run that, and I had time to play in it, I'd be like, sure, let's go. And I'd be asking, okay, can I bring my Wizard's Handbook along? Can I bring my Encyclopedia Magicas Volume 1 through 4 along? Can I bring, the Priest Spellbook 3 book collection along? Because there's some really fun stuff there that never really gets used because it's OP as hell.
Yep. I had one of my players when I ran second ed, he was calling me every day, "Hey, will you allow this spell? Will you allow this spell?" I finally snapped at him. No, no more. It became a matter of, okay, run it by me, and then it's eligible for research, but no, you can't take it by default.
David Guile, I'm not trying to hurt Delvers at all, but the mathematics, the pneumastics of it with the fourth ed or with the fifth level, you get another attack. At 10th level, you get another attack. At 15th level. And I remember that being mentioned to me when I was looking at fourth edition. And then like at these certain levels, like everybody does these certain things. And yours has a parallel but not exact verbiage in it. But his class is very much split from that. He does have the basic wizard, the rogue, the bard, but he has such variants and so many options available that you get a really good mix of character types, and you can build good archetypes off of them, but you don't really hurt your game. In fact, you could go from second ed TSR D&D or third edition WotC, first edition I should say, to Dungeons and Delvers, and you would really find yourself kind of at home because it dials things back a bit. It almost takes you to the level of complexity of, say, Metzer. Did you like the magenta box?
That was the Holmes, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I didn't play that one. I've been looking for a copy of PDF so I could read it because I want to see what the differences are. Thought of not doing a video, but I started on Menser. I started with the red box back in '86.
Okay.
Only recently have I gone BX Moldve via Old School Essentials. That was a year and a half ago. Beyond that, no, I never played the earlier editions. I never played the Holmes Basic. I never played OD&D. Well, I played OD&D once, but that was a friend's house ruled one, so it didn't resemble what was in the OD&D books. He just called it OD&D. And that was one time. It was a one shot. So no, I don't know the difference between the mechanical differences between Holmes and Moldve and what they changed.
They're very small. Those
small,
differences.
Okay.
They're not. They shouldn't cause a fight at a table. In fact, I'll even say that TSR any edition of TSR is mostly compatible with other TSR editions. Am I a big first edition fan? Not really. Do I really like second ed? It's okay. They're both the same system for the most part. I don't like the way thieves resolve their skills. That's my biggest complaint.
I'll be right back. I go take care of something.
Okay. We're gonna be here for a while crafting.
Okay.
We'll be here. Maybe we'll get around to Robotech just for you. I used to play Robotech.
I haven't watched enough Robotech to play Robotech, and I'm sorry.
I enjoyed it as a kid.
Robotech is such a cool damn universe, but I gotta forget what I learned with Macross Plus, and I gotta go back to the Centrades and watch that series again. So
yeah, a friend of mine had the books, so I read the books, and it's like, hey, these are cool. And then we played the role-playing game, and didn't play it well, but we were kids. We had fun anyway. What was I about to say? You were saying something like you don't mind first ed, you don't mind second ed, but you ultimately prefer Pathfinder. That's your favorite, right?
No, I don't really prefer Pathfinder. I use it because the players that I have right now are just enmeshed. They're in love with it, and the reason they're in love with it is because it kind of puts a different edge on the game. That's very player centric, not really game and world centric. It doesn't. I had a friend who brought his little brother to the table, and little brother played a paladin, and he didn't understand the paladin at all. He lost his paladinhood, and instead of him going on the atonement, he's like, "I don't give a shit. Can I be an anti-paladin?" And I was like, I could do an entire 2 or 3 session where we're trying to get you your atonement, and you're discussing things with members of your church, and you're trying to help root out some inquisitor bait, so these guys could go do what they're supposed to, and you could actually be a hero. Well, I really don't care. I was just being a paladin to get the chicks, but if getting the chicks gets me out of being a paladin, I don't want to play a paladin. I'm like, do you want to be a bard? And so I let them play a bard, and instead of them being focused on big bad evil or problems in city, they went out and tried to pretty much like just make the game entirely about them. And it ended up being a TPK because they got so focused on like, hey, we'll all be bards. And they started playing music, and they started doing their own thing, and they ignored the entire quest. So it just allowed the bad guys carte blanche to assemble and steamroll the opposition, which really wasn't there because the players were supposed to be part of that opposition.
It sounds like they're doing it right. Making the choices, the DM's plan be damned.
Yeah, exactly. So, I like Pathfinder for a lot of skill resolution. I would rather have the thief skills in the main selection of skills, like what Pathfinder in 3rd edition does. But I'm turning everything into a D percentile rollover rule, and it seems like so far the initial play test has been very positive. And I granted I had 5 friends play through a couple sessions of us just adventuring about playing Garda, where we were safeguarding a treasure chest full of money going down the side of a mountain range. And they were very good at that. They were caravan guards. And so in Pathfinder, the skill system allows you to become very specialized if you so choose. And after you've got a few levels underneath you, if you continue to specialize in those skills, you should be good at them. So I kind of feel I prefer that sort of game reality than having one where, yeah, you're a 7th level thief, but you only have a 42% chance to unlock this lock, and please roll low. And it never fails.
I see. I like the percentage system. It's a system that works in terms of the stealth abilities. That's where I hear the most complaints, especially at first level. You know, your hide and shadows is 10%, or your move silently is 20, and people will always gripe as like, you know, because they treat it as a binary, and that's the one thing you can't do. It's not a binary pass fail. It's an enhancement to your surprise chances. Particularly in first edition where surprise is segment based, so you have to really keep that in mind. If you move silently, you're effectively making no noise, and you're basically adding potentially one or two segments to your surprise. So even if you successfully move silently, there's no guarantee you'll gain that surprise. It just enhances that. Whereas most people I know play it as a binary pass fail. You know, oh, you were heard. Now the person knows you're there. It's like, well, that's gyps the thieves. You know, you're supposed to roll your stealth check, your move silently or hide, whatever you're trying to do, and even if it fails, you still have a chance of gaining surprise. Right? It's like a double whammy, and nobody plays it that way. But that's the way the book. Well, unfortunately, the book isn't clear on how it's supposed to be, but it's heavily implied in the book. So I do the way I run it is that metric, that binary pass, or that binary approach, and the players playing my thieves love it, because it's like, oh, okay, especially in first ed where the segment based surprise system is devastating if you can gain surprise, because most other systems have a one round of surprise and that's it. You know, like second ed, you get surprise, you get one round of action, then you're done. Most other games, fifth ed does the same, OSE, basic, but first edition does this nuanced, amazing, brutal surprise system where you can get up to potentially 4 or 5, depending on how you interpret it, maybe even 6 at most, but generally between 2 to 4, especially if you're an elf. Segments of surprise, and in each segment, you can, if you're doing melee, you get 1 round's worth of action. So for a thief, getting surprise and getting your backstab in, you get 4 attempts to backstab can be extremely devastating. And that makes up for the fact that they are weak when they're in toe-to-toe combat, right? They're devastating when they get that surprise, which is the way it should be. Hello. Welcome back.
I prefer I don't I want to get away from round by round combat so much. Like with my system, say Thunder's here, and say you and your friends managed to actually get everyone together, and you're sneaking up on Thunder, and Thunder's right there. You've made all your checks. You decide what you're going to do. He actually doesn't realize you're there. He's blown every roll. And so the moment you make your attack and you get your attack in, that's when the initiative starts. Now, these guys might have made their common sense check and saw you moving, so they moved, or they might be basically dumbfounded too. However, the initiative starts off on second 1. As the knife is going in, he rolls initiative. And actually, as the knife is going in, I'm going to ask, what are you doing next? And you're like, I'm going to stab him again. I want to make sure he goes down. God damn it. Well, he gets his initiative die, and because he's not really a rogue-like character, he doesn't get as good of initiative die as somebody else. So he's rolling a D8, and he starts making decisions 8 seconds from now. You with your dagger, you're pretty good with it. You can make a hacking on this guy every 6 seconds. I mean, that doesn't sound great for a lot of people, but for a beginning character, that's pretty good, because your basic initiative with a dagger is a 7. So you've already started to hone yourself to where you can do this properly. And so when you roll your attack, you roll an 83, and that's kind of painful for him. And
Looks like we're
because
losing Flatey. Good night, Flatey.
Hey, Flatey,
Night,
we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you in a bit. I like Flatey. He's a good guy. Kind of need to spend some time with him soon because I need to get something straightened with the VA, and I think he knows what form I'm looking for. But we'll do that tomorrow, Flatey. You roll your to hit. Okay, you rolled an 83 plus your bonuses. That's easily a hit on this guy whose backside is his posterior is your dinner plate, and you just completely bite him with the dagger. Well, you're a dagger user. You rolled a 1, but because he doesn't have a dexterity modifier while he's not aware of threat, you get your, oh my God, seriously, you get bonus damage, but these rolled a 1 each. Well, you win some, you lose some. All right, so in
The dice sense you're trying to sell somebody on your system, so they're crapping out on you. They're not cooperating.
Yeah, this is the joy of dice, I mean, sometimes it goes, sometimes it works, But then in second 7, I should say, you roll your second round of attacks. Now again, your dagger sucks. Your hit is beautiful. A 94, that's really good. Okay, now mind you, I don't use something like critical hits, but if you do roll 50% over with your bonuses and with your natural die roll, you get another damage value. So basically, because you have your D4, your strength modifier, and your sneak attack damage, you're going to roll this all over again and add this to the result. Now you rolled a 4 on the dagger, so now we have exploding damage die. It's a 1, not a whole lot of extra damage, but still, that's second 7, and you're like, okay, what do you want to do next? And you're like, can I get him again? And I would say you can, but it looks like he's getting ready to do something. Now on initiative 8, he actually gets to decide what he's going to do next. He doesn't go on initiative 8. He just makes his decision because now the surprise is over. So he still might take to second 14 to act. If somebody was there like, I'm going to jam this dagger in him again, you're like, okay. I think this dice is hacked because it's rolling a 90. Okay, that's a 95. So, and we got 2 4, got 1 4 there, and we got a 6 on that sneak attack die. So,
Oh, real quick, Shadow. Two things with Shadow. Did you receive the package I sent? And I just finished the orcs, and they should be getting sent off tomorrow. Should be.
because you rolled over 50% of what his value is, add another damage value to that. So just 50% plus more than what you need. It's basically like trauma damage is how I put it. Aggravated or trauma damage. Haven't decided on the correct verbiage of it yet, but you see how that works. And so on people's initiative, they do the resolution from the last action and they decide what's going to happen next. There's a roster of how long things take to do. Like, say, if Thunder was going to actually cast lightning bolt at somebody because he's an X level wizard, it would take him 8 seconds to do that. So, in the time that he would be doing that, this person would be getting their attack in. And I didn't even figure in the 2 putzes over here, but that's the type of game I want to run. I don't want to do any sort of round by round combat stuff. I like seconds. I like casting times. I like weapon speeds. That for me is joy.
One more quick little thing. Shadow, you don't have to, but you could make a little video opening that because I didn't just send a physical copy of my book. I sent you a few goodies too.
Have you guys heard of Hackmaster 5th edition?
I've heard of Hackmaster.
I heard of it, yes. Know anything about it? No.
Okay. I took the initiative system for the game out of Hackmaster 5e because I think it's a lot better system than anything I've seen before. And I started messing with that. They really started to work with that a lot in 4th edition, but they didn't have it realized. In 5th edition, they really honed it and they fixed everything to where I wanted to play it. My players do not want to play Hackmaster because it is a literal 0 to hero game. It's 20 level classes, but it's only really in all reality a 10 level game because every other level you're just getting minute amounts of skill bonuses or small player options, not much player options, and then you can re-roll your lowest hit die at every other level. So you're only going up like 10 levels in Hackmaster 5e. So whenever they read that, they're like, we're done. We're not into it.
I'm pretty much married to my D&D games. Like it's what I learned. I don't like. There's so many games out there. I mean, I've attempted to try a Call of Cthulhu game, like try running one, but not so tempted that I'm going to run out and grab the books. I even OSE, getting into OSE was a bit of a fluke. I got invited into the game and kind of reminded about how much fun basic D&D was. So I figured, all right, I'm going to run a basic. But getting into all the retro clones, all these new games, I look at them and go, oh, I not only can I not afford it, but I don't want to be learning new rule sets. It's always curious, though, to look at one and see what little minutia I can pull out of that and sort of cannibalize into my games, though. So once in a while, I'll take a peek. Sorry, my lazy eye is going over to chat, see if I'm missing anything.
Six Nations says he's making Pozzoli for the family while hanging out. And Shadow's like, I haven't had Pozzoli in 10 years. Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah. Hasn't been as long for me, but I haven't had pumpkin pie in several years because the only other person on the property that I live would actually eat pumpkin pie with me died. And I don't need an entire pumpkin pie to myself.
Everybody needs a whole pie to themselves. Come on, what are you talking about?
There was this character.
Yeah.
We had a guy in Peoria, Illinois named Carl. And Carl was a big beast of a man. He looked like the giant off of Hawk the Slayer, okay? I don't know if you guys are familiar with Hawk the Slayer. It's a wonderfully bad film.
I have not seen it. No,
I've heard of it.
I know it. I tried watching as a kid. I don't think I got through it.
Well, it's not a very good movie, so your childlike instincts were spot on. It's a really bad film.
Well, don't give me too much praise. As a kid, I loved The Sword and the Sorcerer, and that one's equally bad.
This is the same quality of film. Although in Sword and Sorcerer, when the demon runs off the cliff and then explodes, I always get sad that they didn't use a real car to explode like that, because that demon exploded really good.
You have to wonder if that was a spoof of cars going over and exploding. They did the same thing in Call the Conqueror. The guy falls out the window and explodes.
You know, I forgot about Call the Conqueror until you just said that.
It's another great, good bad film. I love it. I watch it at least once a year. It makes me laugh.
I need to see that movie again. I haven't seen it since 1996. 97.
When it was released, yeah.
The funny part for me was that they had the same guy play the big bad guy as he played the gay lawyer on Independence Day.
Oh, Harvey Fierstein, yeah. He was just sort of one of the little inconveniences along the way. He wasn't the big bad in Call the Conqueror. The big bad was Tia Carrere.
That's right.
What really sort of threw me off, and I only discovered this a few months ago, is the guy who played the warlord, the blonde, long hair warlord who was vying for the crown. That was what's his face? The guy who played Terry Silver from Karate Kid 3.
He was also in John Carpenter's Vampires.
Yeah, he gets around. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
You look at his resume, it's like that was him. Holy fuck!
Well, if he gets around, does it have any Hollywood diseases?
Possibly. I don't know.
I stay away from that side of IMDb.
Yeah, I don't want my computer to get a virus.
I really like Terry Silver on the 5th season of
Cobra Kai. Yeah,
Cobra Kai.
Cobra
He's
Kai
really
is one of those shows that's good despite itself. Like it's badly written. Like these writers have no fucking grasp of reality, yet they manage to make the show compelling enough that I keep watching. No matter how much I scream at the fucking TV. You know, the whole like this big brawl in the school, right? And oh my god, it was just so dumb. And like karate seems to be like everybody, the center of everybody's universe, and somehow the karate tournament in this one little local valley is worldwide. It's so dumb. The guy loses his business because of a handshake deal. I was like, wait, what? When Kreese comes in and just takes over the business, is like, yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that because I know people in California and they tell me all the time like their world is fraught with lawyers and insurance agents. Kreese couldn't do that.
No. Yeah, he might have undermined his lease. Sure, I can see that, but he can't just walk in and take the fucking business. It's like no. What was at the end? The end of the last season where Kreese escapes prison. I'm like, what? he used a ketchup as a blood pack, and of course that somehow fooled the paramedics. The hell? And so they move him to this light security. He's like in a heavy security wing, and move him to a light security. He just basically beats up the medics and walks out because there's no guards, right? It's like, wow, so dumb. Or the scene where the guy's dying of cancer when they find all the guys, right, and then they go on the road trip. It's like, yeah, they're just gonna check out a cancer patient who's literally been given 24 hours to live. The hospital's just gonna let him go, right?
No hospice care here.
Yeah. But the things that work on that show work so well that they keep you coming back.
I forgive so much on Cobra Kai.
I do, yeah. I'm the same. I can't wait for the next season. The things that work, like when he went to Okinawa and Chozen was fucking with him, that was some great stuff. And they played it just right. The scene was a little overacted and ham-fisted when like Chozen is raising his and then Daniel's like, no, don't. It's like, oh, come on, that's a little cheesy, but the fact that Chozen was fucking with him and laughed with him, I like that. I like that character growth with that, and so yeah, of course Chozen matured, and because he's
70 years old. I hope he matured.
Well, he's supposed to be just a little older than Daniel, but yeah, and I really like what they did with Chozen and that, and when they brought Mike Barnes back, that was great. It's like Barnes, he's matured, he's not an asshole. I almost wish, actually, I do wish they had done it with Terry Silver as well. They started off that right way. And then, when Kreese calls Silver and Silver's playing the piano and ignores him, and then he has his conversation, is like, I was so coked out that I was helping you try to make a teenager miserable. Like, what was I thinking? I was like, yes, that's how you approach that. That's great. But then they made him go full psycho. And I was like, yeah. They want the cartoonish villain, which is too bad. Because for the most part, what they're doing with Cobra Kai, with the character growth and development and the different perspective, and the fact that Johnny and Daniel become friends, they had too many moments of where they got angry with each other and went their own ways again. They really should just say, no, fuck it. We're on the trajectory of making them friends. Just let's do it. Stop with this, will they, won't they bullshit. Just go that route and give them collective problems to overcome. But for the most part, the show is fun. It's like, they got the nostalgia factor right. If they bring back, what's her face? Julie Pierce, who played her, what's her name? Hilary Swank. I'll be blown away. That'll be amazing.
I would
love
love
Elizabeth Shue back.
they got Elizabeth Shue out, and I was so surprised that she showed up. Although she's been really hitting some good notes lately. Like she was on the first season
The
of The
boys,
Boys,
yeah.
and I was so surprised that she took that character because that character is just a diabolical, power hungry woman, if there ever was one. And I was so happy season one ended the way it did. But
And they still slipped her into season 2. It was great. When the
yeah,
shape
I
changer
wasn't.
was playing her, which was even funnier.
I was not expecting her to make it to season 2. I thought she was over.
No, she was done, but you saw season 2, right? Where basically Homelander was coercing that shape changer into taking her form.
Yeah, I saw that episode. I only saw like 3 or 4 episodes. I like the comics for The Boys a lot better than the TV series.
Yeah, I never read the comics, but I'm enjoying the show.
The show can be really enjoyable. My reason for not enjoying the show is because I have a friend with the comics, and so I've sneaked a little bit, and I've looked at them, and I know enough to where I'm thinking, all right, well, let me try. Let me see if they do this side trek any justice, or let me see if they do this tangent any justice. And there's some things they're doing really well. There's other things that Amazon is just not good with.
When it comes to adaptation, there are a lot you have to let go. It's hard sometimes. I'll watch something that's an adaptation and go, "This is garbage," and then you give it some time and revisit it, and it's like it's good on its own. It's good in isolation, but it's not a good adaptation. And now I haven't read the Boys comic, but I get the feeling the Boys show is one of those things that it's not a good adaptation, but it's good in isolation.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good in isolation. I would not suggest reading through The Boys in its completion and then going to the TV show because
Right.
you're gonna turn into a profanity laden misfit.
Walking Dead was the same. I hated the Walking Dead comic, but I loved the show, especially in early years where the show kind of meandered a bit at points, but it was still enjoyable. But the earlier seasons were fantastic, and the comic I just gave up. I was like, this is awful.
Okay, I got to call it a night. I just woke up from a short nap.
I thought you were just listening intently to the droning of my voice.
No,
Sorry about that, crafting gamer.
It's okay. It blame my back pills. I take them rarely, so they knock me for a fucking loop every time.
No, that's what you got to do if your back is killing you.
Yeah. So, good night, everybody.
All right, have a good night.
Good night, my friend. Thank you, sir, for showing up.
It was fun for what I wake for.
Sorry we couldn't talk Robotech. I know that's your thing.
It is for now. Eventually, I intend to cover other Palladium stuff. It's just there's so much Robotech. I figured I'll also cover it all before I move on. So, good night.
All right, good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I played a lot of Palladium as a kid. When I got into D&D, somebody pointed me in the direction of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I went, "Ooh, this is fun!" And then that led to Robotech, and what was the other one? Heroes Unlimited, and eventually Rifts, Beyond the Supernatural, and of course Second Ed D&D came out, and so I was jumping over there. Of course, Shadowrun came out when I was 16. I was like, "Oh, Shadowrun, this looks amazing!" And then when people were like, "Oh, you got to try Masquerade, Vampire Masquerade," I'm like, "Yeah, that's not my thing, but I'll try it." And it was bouncing all over the place, and then eventually I decided, you know what, D&D is my thing. Get rid of all the rest. But I played a lot of Palladium.
Played more riffs than anything else in Palladium's wheelhouse,
Mm-hmm.
but the times I've played Robotech, I really liked it. And then the times I played After the Bomb TMNT was really good.
I loved Roadhogs. That one, we had our Mad Max thing going. Yeah, my Rifts campaign was probably the first time I successfully saw a campaign through. It was about a 2-year campaign. We had a proper conclusion to it, and everybody was so happy. It was the first time we'd ever done that. Most of the times up to that point, our games just fizzled out, as they usually do. So our Rift game was memorable for that. And then from that point on, I was like, you know what, I'm a D&D guy.
I really. What is your absolute favorite version of D&D? Is it First Ed?
First Ed Advanced, yeah.
Okay.
One of the reasons I like it is, the presentation of the books is all over the place. It is not the best. Second Ed cleaned up the presentation, but they kind of gutted the game. All right. So there's a lot of overlap with a lot of compatibility, but they missed the point of a lot of things. They change things rather than try to just explain things that already worked and explain them better. First Ed is really nuanced. It's good. It's got good simulation aspects. And I found for me, that's where the sweet spot was. Now, the caveat to that is something I've realized lately is that you really do need the player buy-in. And First Ed has a lot of working parts. And I've played with players who they're not bought in to all the detail and the nuance. And that's where I really embraced OSE, because I kind of gauge my players now. It's like, are you an advanced player? Or are you an OSE player? It's like, all right, I know which game to put you in. But when you've got a group of advanced players who buy in, they do the work, they'll calculate their encumbrance, they'll figure out speed factors, they'll do all of that, then you can really have a great game. And because then you can start, when everybody's on board with the rules and understands it, you can start letting go of the rules. And that's sort of the goal of a lot of role playing, is get the rules to second nature, so you're not always referencing them, and then you can just focus on character work and actual role play stuff. But so First Ed Advanced is where it's at for me. Is just so much. There's Shadow and Sun agreeing with me. 1E all the way, yeah. So yeah, that's my favorite. But OSE has become a close second. I have an absolute blast running my OSE games.
I still listen to Tin Car sometimes.
Okay. And
Tin Car is a big OSE guy. He's also huge on Swords and Wizardry. I think he wrote Continual Light, which is like a 4-page book that replaces like 64-page books. It has your basic information in it for creating your character, and that's it. You and the DM figure out the rest. And for a game like Swords and Wizardry, you need an index card, a 3x5 index card.
Shadow saying OSE seems still watered down. Well, it is watered down. It's a lot more basic. It's a lot more pared back. But that's a feature, not a bug. That allows for streamlined play and allows for easy entry for new players. And that's a big selling point. Because I'll use OSE as a stepping stone, and I can tell somebody who's really doubling down, who really gets into the OSE, can handle the advanced stuff. Half of my OSE players, advanced, that they just wouldn't want to do the extra work. But I don't mind the watered down. Sometimes, even as a DM, there's so many rules, so many things to think about. You're twirling so many plates, and having a simpler pared back system, that just, it takes a bit of the edge off, and lets you have fun too. It's just a lot of second ed to D&D with 1E mix, Cyberpunk, Palladium, Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, so many systems. So many systems. I'm just trying to think. I talked about this on Max's stream, Legion of Myth, about a month or so ago. Tried a game called Lex Arcana early in February, and it really stuck with me. I quite liked how the resolution system was done in that. And that's a game I might look into in the coming days if I take a break from D&D, which it doesn't look like I'm going to be doing. But
what about it made you like it so much?
I think, the setting, but the setting can be anything. But the setting was interesting. But the die system, I found, it was versatile and yet simple to grasp. So the idea was that wherever you had a skill, like an attribute or an actual skill, things like that, you would have a number, obviously, like normal. And then when you're called upon to make a skill check, you could take any combination of 3 dice, right? That whose total value equaled your skill. So if you had a skill in 16, you could say, okay, well, I want to do a D8 and 2D4, right? 4 plus 4 plus 8 is 16. Or you could opt to do a D12 and 2D2, right? It's your player's choice. It doesn't matter, so long as the total value of each of the 3 dice equaled your skill. And then you roll, and the dice are exploding. So if you roll the maximum value, you get to roll that die again. So the goal would be to take the smallest dice you possibly can to fill out that number. But the higher your skill is, obviously, you're going to need bigger dice. If you have an 18, you're probably going to need a D12 as one of those dice, right? Or a D10. So, and it was interesting. It was just interesting that the DM would give you a target number or have a target number and just ask what you rolled, and you give them the number, and then that would determine how many times you met that target number would determine the severity of your success. So, and that was it. That was kind of the system for everything that had to be resolved. So it's very easy to grasp, and it was a lot of fun. We say, okay, that's interesting. And when your dice explode, holy fuck, there's cheers around the table. Somebody rolled a D12 and got that 12, and then wow, and they got an 11 on top of it. So just the whole experience stuck out with me. And I like the setting. The idea is that the Roman Empire never fell. It's now the 5th century. And you play paranormal investigators, your cohorts from around the Roman Empire. And the Romans, they basically send you to investigate paranormal threats. So it's Call of Cthulhu in 5th century, as if the Roman Empire never fell. So it's kind of neat alternate history.
Sounds good. Sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, it was interesting. That was why it stuck with it. I only played a one shot back in February, and I still once in a while think about it. I said, yeah, maybe I should look into it more if it's still sticking with me. I just have so much on my plate right now that I'm not going to start another game. I got a million videos to catch up, and obviously the move and Dungeon Ministers event. We're doing the ClericCon. How close are you to Ontario? You want to come up to ClericCon?
I am in Texas.
Oh, you're a little far away, yeah.
Yeah, I hate to say that, but
well, it's only a 20-hour drive.
Yeah, it's no big deal. I'd be there on Saturday. Yeah. Hey, Green Apple. I was wanting to go to the Big Geek Con.
Okay, that's not too far. That's north of Detroit.
It's about 18 hours away.
18 hours, yeah. Well, 4 hours for me. I could have gone in 4 hours with a little more notice. If he does it again, I might go.
Everybody told me that was a really good session, really good convention for 2 brand new guys to the trade. They put on a good convention. Everybody loved it.
Yeah, they were doing it the weekend of my niece's wedding. It was not happening for me.
I know. I remember that stream. Sorry.
It's life. I was thinking of doing GaryCon next year once things have sort of settled, assuming I've got the budget. Things settle the way I hope they do, I might. GaryCon could be fun. It's probably, if I rent a car, about a 12, 13-hour drive. So it might be better to just fly.
Where's GaryCon at?
It's in Lake Geneva.
Okay. You would think I would know that. Yeah, I would be able to ascertain. Oh, Gary Gygax's his hometown. No, I don't think about that until you said Lake Geneva. I'm like, oh,
then it clicks.
Yeah.
It's a facepalm factoid, right?
Yeah,
I should have done that. I'm gonna gauge how well I run a convention game at Dungeon Ministers event before I consider running something at a bigger event like GaryCon.
GaryCon used to be like the cool convention to go to. And I mean, like, if you were somebody in the tabletop RPG world, you could go to Gen Con if you want, but if you want to meet the people that made the hobby, go to GaryCon, and you'll rub shoulders with everyone.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that too. I mean, and there's a few of sort of our channel colleagues or channels that we've seen around at least have said the same thing. And like, look at Kelsey Dion from Arcane Library. She does Shadow Dark. Like
Yep.
she ran a whole ton of tables at Gary Con and sort of paid her dues testing her system there.
I don't have an opinion on Shadow Dark because what I've seen of it, it looks like it's really good, but it looks like it's a booklet for rulings, not really rules.
Yeah, I think it's as people say, it's sort of a bridge. It's got a lot of modern rules, but an older school feel. It's got that little more lethality, some tropes and things familiar with old school. I downloaded her starter because it came with a little adventure module that I was going to seed into my game to test the compatibility, and that was my main interest. Everybody's coming up with their own retroclone, which is essentially their house rules. What I want to see is compatibility between these systems. I want to see a module stream that I can like modules that can easily be converted between them. So if I grab a Shadow Dark module with minimal effort, I want to be able to convert it to OSE or even AD&D. That to me would be of more interest than all these new games, everybody coming up with their own things. You're effectively just publishing your house rules. But that's why I downloaded the Shadow Dark thing, because I was curious as to the compatibility. So I took a look. I mean, it looks easily compatible. So they win on that front. Any adaptation can be done. Like the experience points in Shadow Dark are low. They're akin to DCC, where you need like 10 XP to go up a level instead of 2,000. So, but that's easy enough. You just use the XP values of the gold and the monsters if you're using OSE. So conversion's easy there.
I haven't played DCC yet.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I have played that one, and it's a little too wacky with all the charts and everything you do. The character funnel was a lot more fun than I expected, but then all the weird wacky abilities and all the charts you got to roll, and the you every time watching players who took fighters, it's like, okay, you get your hero dice and roll this d3 and it enhances you by this, and okay, you're going to cast a spell, roll a d20, oh, you failed, oh, it looks like you just mutated your arm or something like that, and it's like, ugh. Eventually you're going to die because your spell is going to backfire. It's largely similar to basic D&D, but they've added this really out there element. And then there's also the weird dice, your D14s, your D16s. I'm like, why do we need this? Yeah, I didn't love it. It was okay. It was fun because the group I was playing with were a great group, but I can't say it's something I would go back to or seek out.
I've heard that complaint a lot of times from players. They're like, "Why did I play this game? This is a game I want, but with extra steps."
Yeah, I mean, it's fun in a short term game, I guess. Because you get the Gonzo results, which did have us laughing. I cast Charm Person and I got the the highest possible roll because I had this weird talent where I rolled a D30 instead of a D20, right? So and when you get into the 30s, the reaction is godlike. So I cast Charm Person and affected 100 people in front of me. So I had this whole town charmed, right? And we all laughed. It was just so funny, but it's like, all right, but this gets old after a while. But for short-term Gonzo campaigns where you're just looking to laugh, yeah, great, go for it. I can't see a campaign of DCC going. I'm sure there's people who do it, but hello, insert name. Congrats on surviving Jihad Friday. Were we supposed to be nuked today? I'm completely out of the loop. Oh wait, we're not talking current events. Sorry, I retract the question.
Just to summarize it, somebody who said, "Take back all the years that you were spit on," and that's basically what it was. they wanted to get that nationwide crap going on, and I didn't see a lot going on down here. I don't know what all went on in Austin. New York and Philadelphia had problems. West Coast had problems, but Texas, I didn't see a whole lot of problems here.
I live in Toronto. We're as multicultural as it gets. So,
you know, there will never be a okay. There will never be a terror attack up there.
no, never say never.
It'll be a very rare day because you guys just had a uniformed guy from the SS in Parliament getting hugged on by little Castro, and I mean that the guy was from the 1940s, and he did stuff during the WW2. So I don't ever see Canada, unless Alberta does something drastic and somebody gets upset. Oh no, we got to take away their maple syrup. Let's get them. That's kind of how I feel it's going to go. I mean,
Say you threaten to take my maple syrup away, I'm coming after you. There will be a jihad.
I'm trying to make it funny because I really don't want to talk politics.
I know.
You at least, no offense. I like you, I respect you, but they just had this guy on Parliament's floor, and he was like everything evil and bad from yesteryear, and it's like that'll do wonders for a lot of parts of Canada. As much as I despise saying that, like that's going to kind of insulate. They'll look south. They'll be like, oh, what can we do in the United States to piss them off?
Our governments are a shit show. Provincial, federal, they're all fucking nuts. So
ours are the same. We have problems over here. As much as I wish Texas didn't, we let in our own problems all the time.
Yeah, I got a friend living in Texas, and she's a Texan liberal. So it's like she'll often reach out, going, "Why am I here? Why am I here?"
It's funny because they have a lot of those around Austin, and
she's near Austin. Yeah,
South Austin. If you study poli-sci, South Austin can be just like your retirement thesis. Like, how did this happen? And you go there and you still see some old murals of peace and love, and you got the anti-Vietnam War sentiment from parts of Congress Drive and all that, and then you meet some guy from like the 1960s, and he's definitely up in years. He looks like he should be a college professor teaching programming code for Unix machines. Okay. I mean, this is the how Austin is, and they're talking about how the Republicans did this or whatever. But then one of these guys, liberal as hell, says, "Jimmy, don't move, but to your left, 220 meters, I'm in America, excuse me, 220 yards off your porch, there's a 7-point buck. Where's your gun?" And Jimmy's like, man, I can't remember because I smoked some really good herb from Elroy, Texas, which is about 20 miles away where they got the Circuit of the Americas racetrack. And he's like, if you can get to my RV at the front of the Airstream, I've got my 2 Mossbergs. Get the box of shells in the shoebox on top of the protest signs. And it's like, wait, you're liberals. You guys shouldn't have guns. And they look at you like, we're South Austin liberals. We love our guns just as much as we like protesting. And they are complete Second Amendment fiends, like any gun tuber, like Brandon Herrera, like Angry Cops, like any of these guys out of the Vet Bros community. but they completely, whenever it's time to complain about how Texas has got their parental rights and abortion laws set up, man, they can talk chapter and verse on this, and they'll go toe to toe with you talking about what was going on in 1972.
Well, it
that
sounds
led up
like
to
they're
1963.
classic liberals. They're not neoliberals.
They're completely classic liberals.
Yeah.
They you can have an educating conversation with them, and afterwards, when you get done, like, you shake hands with them, and you're like, appreciate your knowledge. As you can tell, I didn't come to this fight. I didn't come here knowing half of what you have forgotten in life. Thank you. And they're like, yeah, man, come on back sometime. Next time, if you could, bring back, you have a fantasy flight game? Yeah, I've got a couple. All right, we'll go to Franklin's Barbecue at 4 in the morning. Franklin's Barbecue is one of the few barbecue places. It's worth it because you take a folding table and then you'll have two friends with you, and they each bring folding chairs and you have another friend, and he drags behind a backpack and a cooler full of beer. And so while you're waiting from 5 a.m. to 11 or 10 in the morning, you're playing board games and drinking a lot of beer. A lot of Lone Star can fit in a cooler. Lone Stars are local beer that in this area. It's not as expensive as Pabst Blue Ribbon, which I prefer, but Lone Star is a fine beer which will get you where you want to go if you so choose. And I do like that. You'll get in 1.5 games of Battlestar Galactica before your table gets called, before it's time to go. And that is completely the party aspect of Austin. You go to a barbecue shop at like 5 in the morning, you start playing your board games, getting drunk. At 10 o'clock, you get served your beef and your plate of sausage and turkey cuts or ham cuts, whatever it is. And then you go home and you find a place to sleep, because that's what you should do. That's Austin barbecue pads.
My kind of people. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm left of center myself, but I'm licensed. I don't own any guns, but I'm licensed to own them, which is a rarity here in Canada, at least in the city. In the country, not so much. Fun fact: Canada has more guns per capita than any other country, including the United States.
I've heard that rumor. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's true, because I think Wisconsin and Illinois both, probably those two states put together, have more privately owned firearms.
I would have to dig up the stats on that, but I know you got to understand that in rural areas, especially in Calgary or Calgary in Alberta.
Alberta, okay,
yeah, there's a heavy gun ownership. I remember when I was taking my hunting / firearms course back in the day, and the instructors were talking about how when the federal government brought in these new regulations, and they said, okay, we need you to register all your guns, and so they gave him a sheet with 3 slots, right, to register the guns. Is like 3. I'm going to need a few more sheets, thank you very much. And the guy had like a stack because he had hundreds of firearms, which is not uncommon. In the city, not so much, but in the country, yeah.
That sounds like a wonderful room to have, where you just open up the door and there's your entire arsenal hanging proudly on the wall.
Well, my father was a gun collector. That was one of the reasons I got my my license, was because he was planning to bequeath me when he died his weapons. He had some collectors. He had some now prohibited, but at the time he got them, they weren't prohibited. And prohibited class licenses were sort of grandfathered. You couldn't get one unless, like in the case of my father, he was going to bequeath me a prohibited weapon, in which case I could get my prohibited license. Now, not so much. Now, my father went and blew up his house and everything in it, so all of that's gone. But that's how you had to do it. Now there's no way to get or very few ways to get a prohibited class license. I can only get restricted, non-restricted, which is basically rifles. Handguns are restricted. But even in Toronto, there's pretty much, they kind of shut down all the places where you could go. All the ranges and everything are all out of the city. I'm sure there are. I haven't looked into it lately, but I'm sure there are some. But it became harder and harder. especially after a couple of years ago, there was a mass shooting right downtown.
Edmonton?
Sorry?
What city was that?
In Toronto.
Okay.
Somebody opened fire on the Danforth, which is one of the major thoroughfares across the middle of the city. So that naturally there was a reaction to it, and governments did their thing and put the Band-Aid solution. But it is what it is. So yeah, no, it's the guy. I remember my instructor telling me that the amount of firearms a lot of rural types own, just people are blown away, especially city folk who generally don't.
Insert name here. You correctly heard Sean.
That was correct. Yeah, there was a. He didn't blow it up. It wasn't like he took a thing. It was an accident. He was out in the country and he was heated by propane, and there was a leak and ignited, and he was killed in the explosion. So this is about 8 years ago now. So it's not raw.
We have some guys down here.
Justin Thor. There we are. Justin Thor lives less than 2 blocks from where the shooting was. Yeah.
Hey, Justin. See, I don't even remember that situation in Toronto. That's the first I've heard of it.
When did it happen? I think it was in 2018, or was it 2019? 2018. Must have been 18. Maybe it was 17. But yeah, a couple of years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. The girl who was killed was the niece of a friend of mine who subsequently killed himself. He took his own life. I knew he had been killed. I didn't know he had committed suicide until a few weeks later. And no, before you ask, everybody in Canada doesn't actually know each other. That was just coincidence that I happened to know somebody involved sort of by degrees.
That's completely understandable. See, my hometown, I was born in Decatur, Illinois, which that used to be the hometown for Judges Guild.
Okay.
And so growing up and getting into the geek culture, you would see signs around town, JG, JG, JG everywhere. And so I got to know the family that created Judges Guild. I got to be good friends with a lot of them. And it was a lot of fun to kind of grow up in that area, because if you went to 3 or 4 used bookstores, you could have, before 1999, you could have the entire lineup of Judges Guild products if you went to the right stores. There's a place in Forsyth, Illinois, the north side of town, which has it's called the Old Book Barn, and the building is a 3 or 4 acre, 3.5 acre, I believe, acre building full of used books. And the fantasy section used to be exclusively Judges Guild products up until like 2002, 2003, when they just said these aren't selling. And then somebody came in, and I think they were in the know. They knew Bill from Frog God Games, and Bill had sent some stuff to Warrensburg to pick up a couple of warehouses of products, which I helped load the truck for that. And then they went and got the rest of the stock from the Old Book Barn, I believe, after this. If it wasn't Bill, it was another company like Frog God. Maybe it was Kobold or some other third party. But it's just interesting, because you would bump into people and they'd recognize you from when you used to hang out with the JG guys long after the business had closed. And so now I'm meeting all their kids, and this is in 2002 to 2006. And I got to know the Bledsaw family pretty much in its entirety. And I like Senior Bledsaw quite a bit, Senior Dan. But him and I couldn't agree politically on things, so I didn't get involved with his table game. But I got involved with a lot of people around him that have been broomed out because of their politics. And then as Decatur kept to deteriorate, they deteriorated in the job environment, the taxes going up, Nobody's able to afford to live in town. People just migrate out of the area, and that has basically been the entire tale of Illinois. If you go to my channel for any period of time, you'll hear that tale of woe where, and then I had this job, and then I had this job, and then I had this job, and then I just left Illinois in general because I had a CDL, commercial driver's license, and I could get a job anywhere. And indeed I did. I took it to Texas, and I've been there ever since. But sadly, that was my hometown, and I would love to be able to frequent there more often and touch base with people, because they're getting to that age where, all right, you're 60 or you're 70 or God, you're 80. We need to hang out more often before you pass,
You only get a few more years. It creeps up on you fast. My mother is, her older sister just turned 80, and then we're like, when the hell did that happen? My mother will be 80 in 2 years, so it's like,
My parents just hit 70 a few years back, and I have a hard time on a stream, on a video call where I see them, because at first I'm thinking, who are you? And then I recognize, like, oh, that's what you look like when you get older. And I get fearful, because I'm like, I haven't seen you this year in person. I need to make a trip. I need to go see you.
mm-hmm.
And that's,
I have regular contact with my family, so I'm lucky in that area. The exception being my uncle, who's disowned us, but fuck him. But yeah, time's just clipping by. It's one of those things. I thought we were talking about good stuff. What the hell? Why are we getting depressed?
I'm sorry. I figure I do want to ask you one other thing. With you've got your stream and your discussion about Night Below. What is something? What is another campaign you'd like to run?
I'd like to run. Let me see. I mean, I wanted to run a Ravenloft campaign for the longest time, but I think that's sort of I think that's behind me now. I don't think I could run it the way I'd want it. Let me just see. Campaign. I ran Temple of Elemenelu. I'm not looking to run that again. I don't know. I don't think there's anything I'm itching to run. I mean, I guess if we're going to get into 5th edition territory, I wouldn't mind doing the Rime of the Frost Maiden or Tomb of Annihilation. I picked those up, and they're pretty good. They can easily be backward converted too, retro converted. But those ones actually look like they could be good games, good campaigns. I know that's heresy.
Go ahead.
I said I know that's heresy. I'm propping up a 5th edition product, but I'll own it.
That's fine. There are 4. I saw a friend of mine in 2008 and 9. He was running 4th edition monsters against 3.5 characters. Okay. And however he was running his game, his players kept coming back. So I don't think whatever he was doing was wrong, because he was having the metric of success in terms of repeat players.
That is the metric of success, though. If your players are coming back and if they're enthusiastic, you're doing something right.
That really is.
I recently got an email from one of my first ed players, the ones who are going into the Night Below, and this was the problem player, the guy who in his previous campaign would always have an excuse to bow out. he emails me. He's like, got this list of things. Okay, I want to do this and this and this before we start the next session. When I get it ready, like, I'm looking forward to it. Let me know when we're playing. It's like, yeah, I think that's a sign of victory. When they're emailing you enthusiastic and making plans for their character, then yeah, you've got them hooked.
And that's something that I want people to take away from any conversation in this hobby, is that if your players keep coming back to play, they might have valid complaints or valid gripes or what their wish list is. I would love it a little bit more if this would happen, or I would enjoy it more if this would happen. But if they're not leaving your table, and if their quibbles are few, then you're doing something correct.
I agree, and and it's one of those things that because nobody's going to be 100% on board. Nobody, like everybody's got their preferences, and most players at a table are they're ignoring any deal breakers. They're accepting things that they don't quite like because they like everything else. So ultimately, run the game you want to run. The people who want to play will stick around, and they're coming back. You're doing it right.
And I want people to understand that more and more, because that's just that's this hobby. I mean, there's hundreds of tables out there. There's thousands of players that are on Roll20 right now, and a third of them don't have a game, but they're looking for players, or they're looking for a GM. But if you yourself have a continued campaign going, then whatever you're doing, continue to do that, stumble through it, and it'll be right.
I want to answer Justin here. He says, don't make plans about your character, do things as your character. In this case of what I'm talking about, this is what he's doing. They're on downtime. So he's just telling me that during their downtime, he wants to do certain things. He wants to look for henchmen. He wants to learn a new language. So he is active, but they're on downtime. So it's not a thing where he's saying, okay, my character is going to do this and this and this. When he gets to this point, he's saying, okay, during our downtime, I want to accomplish this.
Soy-based Jeremy, the first soap giveaway will be November 15th.
I can't wait for that long. I got BO now.
I'm sorry. I have another package in transit from Duke Cannon, and
you're always pimping coffee too. Come on, I'm almost out. Send me a bag.
Actually, I need to get some cocoa in here, and the cocoa that Blackout Coffee makes is freaking amazing. If you like cocoa, it's not like Nestle Quick or Swiss Miss. No, it's like actual, like, get your diabetes now cocoa.
Oh, I eat too much sugar as it is.
I don't think it has a lot of sugar. I think it's got more cocoa than sugar in it. Justin, I'm a gamer like you. I like to roll the sacred die, but I don't want to smell my job on me if I'm sitting down to do this for 10 hours. That's not the goal.
You game for 10 hours?
That's the goal.
That's an epic game. I can't go more than about 4.
Tomorrow I'll be running. Later today, I want to run 8 to 9 hours.
Oof. When I was a teenager, we would do that. We'd get together at like 10 a.m. on a Saturday after, when on the weekends, and run till about 8 p.m. But I couldn't do it anymore. I mean, once in a while, I'm gonna have to load up on the energy for a cleric con, because I'm running 2 tables on the Saturday. Not quite back to back. There's a break between them, but it's still gonna be longer than what I'm used to doing.
See, I love long sessions. Every other Saturday, my current campaign, I do about 8 hours of gameplay. We actually talk for about 10, but my players, that's what they like, and so I dig it. I want that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, obviously everybody's got their different thresholds.
Yeah.
I find that when we're going and we're hitting that 4-hour mark, it's even people at my table, we're good to say, okay, let's look for the break point, the natural break point, and then we'll pause here and off we go. We'll push it if we're going to complete something. I do a lot of downtime in my groups. Like I do the 1-to-1 time thing when we're away from the table. So, but I don't apply it until they're between adventures. So what we'll do is like if we're nowhere nearing an end of adventure, XP is going to be awarded, and the downtime and all the banked time and the real time that will pass, then we'll finish it. So we might go 6 hours, but general sessions, 4 hours. Everybody's starting to lose steam. So
See, I wish I was like super gamer, where I was like, okay, we're 4 hours in. Come on, we're almost halfway through. But I'm like over 40. And if I got to go reach for something that rolled under the table, my knees let me know.
yeah.
My
Or
knees
if
are like,
you've been sitting for too long and your legs have been bent and they're kind of numb, you don't feel it, then you try to stand up too fast. Yeah. I've been there. I actually, when I game, I sit on a stool. So I'm a little higher, a little more elevated, so it's not so bad. And I like to move. I like to get up and move, so I'm actually okay. That's probably one of the other reasons a 4-hour session is good for me, because I'm actually physically moving and doing stuff. And I find that when a game is done, I'm at a good level of drain. It's like, yeah, I can. I'm wired to a degree, but I'm good to sort of sit in my easy chair and say that was a good game. Yeah.
Soy-based Jeremy, have a good night, bud. If you've got to get to bed, we'll see you soon. Green Apple says in an Adventure League they do about 3 hours. Actually, it's closer to 4. Your cats. I could believe it's closer to 4. Back in 3.5, the average length of a table session was like 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's changed a whole lot. I mean, we can do that. My players just want more time. I mean, when you're 13th level, I don't know what system it is, but standard D&D games, when you get to be about 13th level, if you have a table of 7 or 8 players and you're going around the table, it might be 8 or 10 minutes to get the whole table plus some monsters done. Now, when I run my monsters, I can go through the monsters really fast because I already know what I'm doing. For some odd reason, players don't do that, or they don't plan ahead, or whatever it is. So it's about a minute per person, a minute and a half for like the caster. And as much as I've tried to speed things up, my players start having attrition. So okay, fine, I'll let you take your time, whatever. But about 10 minutes per round is the average. And in Pathfinder, when you're 13th level with like 8 players, and I wouldn't say moderate magical items, not like super high level amount, but you're on the scale. You're in about the middle where you should be. About 4 rounds in, and both players and the opposing forces are down to single digits, or they're at negatives. So, I mean, it works out pretty well. I know that sounds like, well, that's way too long. That's a potential 40 or 50-minute combat. If I could have a 50-minute combat, I'd be happy. A lot of my combats stretch into hour and a half moments, hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a combat that lasts that long. But most of my games, it's been a while since I've had a combat last that long. Not counting 5th Ed. My 5th Ed games of combats can be drawn out because we also play them online, which, fiddling with Roll20 can be a little longer. But my in-person games have a little more flow. My OSE games are lightning fast combats. My 1st Ed game can go a little longer. We had the group tackle basically a tribe of kobolds. So it was long just by virtue of the numbers. But I use all the little things, the rules like morale. Like I'm always checking morale on creatures. So a morale failure will end a combat nice and fast.
See, I love morale, and I brought that in my game as well. And I think that helps out a lot.
Oh, it's amazing. The fact that 5th Ed didn't put a proper morale system is slap worthy on the designer's part. This should be a beaten. I mean,
There's a lot of things Fifth Ed doesn't do right.
yeah, they created a good chassis, but they left they left some details out that really would have enhanced the game. There is a morale system in Fifth Ed that's garbage. You know, it's make a wisdom saving throw if you feel the creature might get scared. It's like, what kind of bullshit is that?
I don't mind using morale rolls, but there will be times where common sense should win out. There shouldn't be a die roll. There should be just like on this man's initiative, he turns and runs.
I like leaving things to the dice simply because the dice are chaos. Like the dice will dictate. Yeah, well, we would think common sense. This guy's, he's outnumbered 10-1, but who knows? Maybe the dice are saying he's now suddenly a fanatic. He's willing to fight to the death. I mean, that takes that decision out of our hands and makes the game flow. Insert name asks, what percentage of encounter numbers should be lost before morale's road? Like most morale systems will have that delineated. It's like 25% is usually a trigger, 50% is another trigger. Loss of a leader can be a trigger. Some things, I think, Second Ed had a category: if one side is a spellcaster, then the other side rolls morale, right? So there's a lot of variables depending on the system. I know in First Ed, there's can be first death 25% of total hit points if it's a large creature like a single creature, or 25% of numbers. Then you have modifiers based on how many friends are killed. How much do you outnumber the opponents? How much do they outnumber you? So there's all sorts of things. You have them right in front of you. It's easy to gauge.
Yeah, I like the triggers being the way they are from what you're describing there. I put in the chat, I usually the first casualty, then at 50% reduced, then at 80% reduced.
First casualty is one of those ones you have to play with. Like if it's first casualty but it's an army of 1,000, maybe not. But first casualty when it's just a small war band, yeah, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
But absolutely, and encounter reactions is another one that later systems got rid of. But Second Ed, this is where Second Ed does it perfectly, where they had the 2d10 system, and you have a nice variable chart based on if the PCs are being aggressive, or if they're being friendly, or if they're being indifferent, with a variety. That's one of the things that Second Ed really did improve from the First Ed model. Although the First Ed model is easy, it's percentage. The higher the higher the roll, the more positive the result. So if nothing else, it's easy, even though it's not as nuanced as the way they did in Second Ed. But I love using reaction adjustments. I'll roll them all the time and justify the result. I don't assume that everybody's going to be friendly. You're before the king. You just did the king a big solid by killing a dragon. Oh look, the half orc opened his mouth and said something stupid. Now the king's putting you in the dungeon. Right? That leads to story. That's fun.
Take story like that all the time. Hell yeah. I think encounter reactions are good. I think morale is something that needs to be in games.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't figured out that on my system yet. I basically just it depends on what the dice roll and how the role playing has gone. No green apple, I have not. Are they fun to watch? That's my question.
Do they live play games, or do they review tabletop games like that?
They live play.
They live play.
They have an actual guy that he's pissed off a few people in the industry because his record before he got with Geeks and Gamers was not good. I don't know what he did or said to make them his DM, but he's the DM for Geeks and Gamers. But his performance as a YouTuber before then, I've had better numbers than he did.
Right.
I don't know if they review games. I know they've got a live stream campaign. if he does reviews, that would be fine as well, because you can do reviews on your head. Oh, I like this. This was Dragonlance. It brought back everything I liked, except it has none of the lore.
The lore is the point if you're playing Dragonlance.
That's the part of it that makes my head hurt. They took the lore out of Dragonlance. They took a spaceship combat out of Spelljammer.
Yeah. It's like, what? Insert name here asks if either of us are going to be involved in Hungar's revolving DM game. I'm leaning towards no, but I'm never going to say never. It depends on when, and it depends on what the setup is like once I've moved, and whether or not I get a computer that can handle Roll20 properly. My main computer is dying, and this little laptop I'm using, it's a Mac, so it's finicky with Roll20.
I would recommend not using Roll20.
Well, I'll look into Foundry, but it's one of those things that if I like the tactical grid, so I at least want something there. Owlbear Rodeo is a bit of a shit show. It's great and it's free, but it's also very slow. It bogs down really fast.
D20 Pro isn't bad. It's not great, but it's like Foundry. You can use it. The one I really like is actually just StreamYard and getting a camera to photograph your grid or photograph your tabletop and do that. That uses less resources.
I think once I get a better desktop, Roll20 will be fine. I mean, it works fine as it is. I need more RAM. I've got 4 gigs of RAM on my old computer. It's a 10-year-old computer, so it chugs along, and I have to back up the hard drive before it dies on me. But we'll see. So yeah, I'm not counting myself out. Hungar's asked, and we'll see. But I don't think he's starting till the new year or February at any rate, so that gives me time to figure things out. But I do, it'll be OSE. I think that's what, and that's the other, I guess, the other thing. Like if he's doing OSE, then I'm more inclined to. If he's doing something else that I'm not familiar with, then obviously not. I'm not going to learn a new game for it.
I'm pretty impressed with that. I looked at Roll20 for 10 or 20 years, or 10 or 15 years, and I almost went with it, but then a friend of mine asked me if I'd rather play with miniatures, and I said miniatures, and ever since then I've never looked back. I think if you guys want to use a VTT, go for it.
Well, I think each because it's a rotating DM, so each DM is going to have their own style, right? And if I do it, it'll be like, all right, everybody, here's the Roll20 link. Get your characters on Roll20. We'll be using Roll20. Now, my general play style is a mix of theater of the mind and tactical. I will use the tactical when I need to. One thing I do like about Roll20 is I really do enjoy the dynamic lighting. And
yes.
what I'll do is, is I'll just have the map laid out, and players have free movement. Just go ahead and move, because you're going to see what you're going to see. And if I need you to stop because we're entering a place where I can't have you moving around or combat's beginning, I'll simply say stop moving. Okay, all right, get ready for initiative. But we're doing my 5th ed game. I'm putting them through Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is actually a really good adventure. I was surprised for a 5th ed adventure.
I've heard everybody talk about that.
It's a return to form. It's fairly old school. The first couple of beats are fairly railroady, but it's the general style is you're in a setting and it's otherwise sandbox. They give you the key areas that you need to explore, but other than that, you fill in the blanks yourself. So and the group is liking it. I also got it for free on Roll20. They were giving it away April of last year. They just claim it now. It's free for 3 days. I'm like, great, I'll claim it. Boom. So it comes all decked out. All the dynamic lighting, all the tokens, everything's all decked out. I don't have to do any work. So that was also a selling point for me. But the group's liking it. I might recap it on my channel, actually, a 5th edition recap.
The other one that everybody uses is Tabletop Simulator.
I've heard that one bandied about. Yeah, I was impressed. I tried Foundry once, just one time. I was invited into a game. The guy was using Foundry. Holy crap, was Foundry efficient! I couldn't believe how fast it was. The detail. I was like, I might have to look into Foundry. And it worked perfectly on my Mac. Not a single issue. So it's like, might be worthwhile. I think you got to pay a one-time fee, and then that's it. The license is yours for good.
Yeah, that's right there. That's all I have to hear. That might be a good VTT for me. Not that I want to use one, but if I've got to have one, I need a one and done purchase. I'm not doing subscriptions.
Yeah, I subscribed to Roll20. I applied to be on their ambassador program where basically you promote them and whatnot, and they give you the membership for free. But I haven't heard back, so I guess no loyalty needed.
Roll20 for me has there's some allure. The dynamic lighting for that is really good.
It's good, but it chews up a lot of your memory. That's the problem. You got to be careful about not hand drawing. I learned this the hard way. Hand drawing the dynamic lighting walls. You got to use polygons. You got straight lines because apparently hand drawing them eats up so much computing power. The more you put on it, it slowed things down to a crawl. It was so immensely frustrating. But it's good when it works, and I definitely like watching players. When we're in the VTT, they'll explore when the lighting is there. That's the way it should be. I can set the player's token so that whoever has dark vision has the dark vision, and then I can set the range, and then it's just a matter of just let them explore, let them move around the board, see what they see. If they have a question about something, I can explain it. And actually worked pretty well. I had one where I created a whole little cave complex, and they spent a good 10, 20 minutes just going through the nooks, talking with each other, doing what explorers would do, and, discussing it and saying, hey, let's go check. There's something in the shadows over. Let's go check that. And every once in a while they'd ask me, it's like, well, what's in that shadow? Oh, well, okay, well, give me a perception roll, right? And stuff like that. So it was pretty smooth. It was a lot of fun.
Sounds pretty badass.
When it works. When it works.
If it works, that yes. What I found works for me, I like to draw the map. I don't even use a big card. I'll use like a 5x8 index card, and I'll sketch the map out. This is what you see. And as the players move from piece to piece, I'll use one figure to help be moved along the map and such. That way I can give a good description of things. And if they want me to, I'll draw it out on the paper. And that way they have a terrain they can maneuver around. They can do their sort of thing there. But once they spot an enemy, if they can retain stealth, I'll give them the advantage of positioning to where they can get things sped up on their end. But if they get ambushed, man, they get ambushed, And players in Pathfinder, surprise round only lasts for one round. With the system I've got, it could conceivably go between 2 to 4 separate style attacks before the other person gets their bearings about them and they're bleeding from their kidney and they've lost a liver. And I kind of prefer that better than I do the surprise attack. You get one surprise round. But I like drawing the maps out on the card because it gives me a better chance to describe things. If I've got if my players are asking about something, I can put a miniature in front of them. I'm like, you see this, and it looks like a fruit stand that's unpainted, but there's some fruit in here, and the players can look at it. They can flip it around. They can check it out, do what they need to, and once they start asking questions, I can start bouncing things off them, and eventually get to that die roll that allows you to figure out if there's a trap there or if you see the MacGuffin that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. How many of those have you got? Do you have like an army of minis, many shelves worth?
100.
Was that the wife?
That's the wife.
Hi.
He's just sitting there waiting for somebody to ask that question.
No. I just
No.
answer myself whenever I can.
She just got home from work, and I let her smell the box of Duke Cannon.
Yes, and I have my favorites on the table.
Don't get attached to them too much. I plan on giving away most of those, if not all.
No. But no.
Six Nations, 1,600. It's probably closer to that number to 2,000. 2,000 unpainted figs or partially painted figs. Right now, I'm working on a lot of Big Trouble in Little China figs because I'm really wanting to play Big Trouble in Little China game. I mean, who doesn't want to have the observer? Hey, Justin Thor, you have a good night, sir. Good seeing you here. I love this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the camera's not focusing on it. Come on.
Well, I saw you painting it the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, they give you 3 of these guys. They give you 5 guys with AKs.
Do they give you a Jack Burton?
They do. They give me a Jack Burton, a David Lopan. I got a Gracie Law. Wang.
You get an egg shen? Come on, you got to get egg.
Yeah, egg shin's over here somewhere.
Hey, how did you get all painted like that? Wasn't easy.
True story.
I love this movie. It's my favorite movie of all time.
Favoritist?
My favoriteest movie of all time. Got Grace Law's little female sidekick, and got the guy that can't fight so well, but he helps out the good guys. I forget his name. Got a bunch of other figs too, but we'll work on that. Yeah, I have 6 demon bag. No, hand me the box cover
For the game?
for the game.
My fingers aren't working right now.
Just peel the box cover off.
I was trying.
I know.
Calm your tits, babe. Inflict it. You know.
This is Boris Polinsky, Chris Mataris, and it's by Boom Studios. I don't know how much this is running for now. When I bought it, it was about $85.
When did you get it? Like, is it out of print?
I received this in 2019.
It's not too long ago.
No, it was just put out in, I think, 17 or 18. It's a fantastic game. I haven't had a chance to play it yet. They had that, and then they have the Legendary Studios. Legendary Studios has a card game for Big Trouble in Little China, and I'm looking forward to that. Haven't had a chance to play that yet either. Well, we started to play it, but then somebody's wife got upset and they had to leave.
Boo.
Sorry. Same lady that got upset when we played Catan, and she didn't like the wood for sheep joke.
She's not still the wife of one of your friends, is she?
No, she's gone.
Oh, you weren't secretly referencing your own wife in that. I thought there was a veiled
No.
reference.
No.
Absolutely not.
She tells me we need to play more games, which is a good wife.
You're fucking stuck with me, dude.
I'm happy about that. But I do want to close the stream out. She just got home, and I want to have some husband and wife time.
Yeah, fair enough. It's 2 a.m. for me. I should be crashing anyway, but thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Sean, anytime I'm doing a chill stream like this, or I've got a panel on that's not involved in the game, if you want in the panel, come on in.
Yeah, I'll buzz you if I'm around. It's really dependent on what I'm doing and how busy I am, but absolutely. And whenever you're doing a movie on your Monday nights, if it's a movie I'm like totally down on, it's like, holy fuck, let me in. I want to talk about this movie.
I'll ask Janet about that. As long as she's okay with it, sure.
Oh, it's her show, right?
We have a good team effort, and I do appreciate having her on there. If you had, what movie would you want to hear people talk about, or what would you want to be a panel on? What movie would you want to panel with?
Oh, there's so
talk
many.
About?
But if you're going to Halloween thing, try something like Train to Busan. There's a movie that just blew me away. Couldn't believe how good it was.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's Korean though, and it's best watched subtitle. I don't know if that's a
really
problem. Yeah.
Not with the English dub.
I'm sure you can, but I'm one of those types who is like, I'd prefer to hear the natural intonation of the voice rather than a dub. But I have friends who are dyslexic, and so that's like reading subtitles is problematic for them. It's fair enough. But Train to Busan's a good one. If you want to go classic, Seven Samurai. You want to go epic? Have you seen Seven Samurai?
Okay.
That one warrants like a really deep conversation because it's so rich with the imagery, with the thematic exploration. If you're looking for something lighter and frivolous, hey, try Call the Conqueror.
What do you got, hon?
It's a kind of a little bit of a mindfuck kind of movie, but it's called I think it's either Dark Side of the Moon or In the Shadow of the Moon. Pretty sure it's Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay, I'll look at it. Is this a Pink Floyd movie?
No, it's a fairly newly released movie within the last couple of years. I found it on Netflix, and I was like, I'll just try something different. I watched it, and I was like, whoa! Okay. It kind of twists your melon at the end.
All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of great movies. But I'll keep an eye out your schedule. Whenever you guys are doing the Monday nights are generally my my 5e night, although all my games are on hiatus for a couple of months, so I've got a little more time. But and I'll check because I'm on your Discord, so I can see the updates and the notifications. When you guys did what was it? What did you do this week? Goonies. Yeah, I wanted to pop in on the Goonies. I wasn't able to come in until the end there.
That is such a good movie.
One of the best 80s movies.
I don't know. That's like I think that's my second highest rated film I've put out there.
Yeah, I was like 12 when it came out. I loved it. Saw it a couple times in the theaters, and it's like, it's one of those ones. Objectively, you look at it as an adult, and it's like, okay, it's got some issues, but who cares? It's fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's some editing minor mistakes, but the editing is still really good on this film, and I was very impressed with how well it held up 30 years later. I've never seen a movie that had no practical effects, that had, no blood squibs, that I still was held in rapture, and I'm just like waiting for the next scene to happen, and it's Anne Ramsey and John Matuzak. Oh, this is sad. That was my thought process as I was watching the Goonies. Hey, take care. Insert name here. Sorry about that. But
insert name. Good night, Six Nations. Good night, Green Apple. We need like a romper room thing. It's like and I see Bruce and I see Green Apple. Where's my magnifying glass? I don't have it. Oh well.
Six Nation 31 Kings. Insert name here. Green Apple. Earlier we had Flady, Soy-Based Jeremy. Everybody that was in here, appreciate you all being here.
Justin was in here, yeah.
And we'll be looking forward. Like I said, we'll do the first El Stinko Gamer giveaway. It'll be the November 15th, be that night. And then we'll be cycling those on a more regular basis. But for right now, my buddy said, stretch it out, let it do about a month, and then you can do your giveaways a little more frequently afterwards. But we'll see what happens. And I hope everybody has a great night. Look forward to seeing everybody here tomorrow if they can. If they want to swing in for an 8-hour game, that's the stream. Actually, I want to do about 10.
Jesus.
I've got 8 hours of editing to do on my next video. It's already 25 minutes long, so I'm trying to catch up all my recaps by the end of October. But
Mike Dymart says, "Peace, guys. Been lurking."
Oh, hey, Mike.
Hey, man. You have yourself a good evening, Mr. Dymart. Take care of the family as well. We'll see you tomorrow. The game will be going on, and I think the players will be getting their first vantage point. Like, they've been going through this huge volcano, killing fire giants and other giants. And one of the big things about like a Gary Gygax's super dungeon is that every once in a while you're supposed to find an alternate route or an alternate vantage point to see just how far you've come. And I think if the players play their cards right, they'll actually get a chance to see how far they've made it up. And that one thing you'd want to do whenever you have a super dungeon, you always want to have in the process of discovery and exploration a new exit, because then it's easier we're just going to go 5 rooms back to that Y, turn right, and then we'll be outside, and then we can teleport home safely instead of going down like 3.5 miles through the fire giant barracks, through the frost giant barracks, through the hill giant barracks, and have to fight our way just to get to a safe spot.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
I know, right? Thank you for joining me on the chill stream tonight, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, check out Train to Busan, even just to watch it. If you've never seen it, it blew me away. I saw it for the first time last year, and it's a Korean zombie film. It's just
I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, so full of like heart and just fast paced. Really good. Check it out.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by tonight. And once again, big thanks to Sean from Mage's Musings. If you do not have Sean's channel on your subscribe list, and you do want to see he's a little different, and different in the aspect where he has various personas. He'll bring out the characters. He's got his wizard. He's got his Demi-Lich, which is amazing. Everybody should have a Demi-Lich.
Hello, minions.
I think I like his approach to doing your reviews better than the typical reviewer for the tabletop game guru, because his reviews with his different personas and puppets, he's able to extrapolate and go into different aspects of the adventure from different character perspectives. And in all actuality, whenever you're looking at something that's going to get on your shelf for years, you really want to have somebody that's got the capacity to interpret that. And therefore, if you're asking Bruce, does Mage's Musings reviews have more weight than other people's reviews, even if it's a multi-panel group of individuals like Glass Cannon guys or Legion of Myth guys, I'm actually going to look at this single guy that on his channel, he's one man, but he's able to give you different perspectives without having to have the possibility of a chaos element in the review where somebody just goes off on a bunny trail. Sean is on point with his reviews. And I think if you're looking for a review channel, specifically, add his to your list. That's my honest opinion.
The thing I do differently as well is I will recap the portion of a module that was played and only talk about that portion. I'll do a recap of the whole thing when a module is complete. But yeah, it's a matter of, okay, this is how the players interacted with it, and then I'll discuss. So that's something I do differently. I don't think anybody else does. I just do an overview of the module where I was like, no, this is how the players interacted, at least with on this session. And this is how I felt about it. It's how I felt about the writing, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I wish you a lot of success with this. And I mean, my struggle with YouTube has been different. I thought it would advance a little faster, but apparently some things I've said or done in the past have hindered my progress, which I'm fine with, because if I had 50 people in the chat, my head would get stupid big or swole, and I don't really need that. I give me 10, give me 15 at most, and like 8 of them I can tell their voices differently from the others because I've had them on panels or I'm in Discord with them on Sundays or whatever. I don't need to be friends with thousands of people. I really don't think that'd be my place. I don't think that would I would hurt or be a toxic member of the YouTube gaming community more so if I had like that. I would prefer to keep it small. I know that sounds weird.
Stay humble, my friend.
Yeah, I need to stay humble. I really do.
All you got to do is bring out your Skeletor voice, and then he becomes your alternate character, and that'll help, because then you can separate Bruce from whatever else you want to do.
There he is.
Yes, I agree. More Skeletor voice.
What?
Stay humble, my friends. Well, I take this money away. Skeletor, bring back my Jew gold. Okay. Appreciate that. I really do, Sean. And look forward to your next video. You said you've already edited 25 hours onto it, or 8 hours.
Well, no, I'm working on one that's 25 minutes. The next video is actually scheduled and done. It's coming out 8 a.m. tomorrow. It's going to launch. The one I'm working on, which is the one after that, is 25 minutes long. I've probably got another 8 to 10 hours of editing just to get it all finessed, and I've still got to record the puppetry. So I'm hoping to get that one out by Thursday.
Looking forward to seeing how your project is going to come out. And 8 a.m. tomorrow, so roughly 9 o'clock for those of you on Chicago time, or Chicago, Texas time. Probably going to have a new video from Mage's Musings.
The Demi-Lich is narrating. He's guest narrating the OSE game.
Before I take the stream down, Six Nation has a good idea at 124. Maybe do a collaboration as a crotchety Mages Guild or something. That'd be interesting. I could pull out Bill's voice for that.
You can pull off crotchety, period.
Thanks. Thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
With that, we're going to close everything down. Everyone, thank you so much. And we will see you here again on this channel at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Standard Time. And be ready to game and have your critical hit dice ready. Thank you, Sean, once more. And we'll be off to the balcony.